Hello and welcome back to That's What He Said. Today, I want to talk about a different side of my dad, one that I have never seen, but one I've heard many stories about, and that is the clarity tool. So I'm going to talk about what the clarity tool was to him versus how he is kind of the clarity tool now, and how you can be a clarity tool in your own life, in your workplace, in everywhere that you go. So without further ado, let's get into it. So talking about the clarity tool, right? So my dad, my whole life, I have referred to him as a big teddy bear. Like, he is a big teddy bear. His empathy could not be higher. And honestly, sometimes there have been times where I thought he was being too nice, and my PI is called the altruist. So that's pretty impressive. So obviously at the foundation, my dad is like the nicest person. And this is such a funny thing for me to even try to grasp, because the version that he tells of like his childhood and whatnot is like not what he is now. So the clarity tool was something he used to, and I don't even know how to like beat around the bush with this, like beat the snot out of people. He referred to it a lot as like just being an aggressive and like angry kid. And so the clarity tool was kind of a way to voice how he felt, and without using words, a nonverbal way to voice how he felt, in a very aggressive way. And a lot of times he's talked about how, like, obviously that's very dysregulated. That's not what we live by now, but of course he was a child. And I think when you have to raise yourself and you are kind of on your own, and it's so easy to be mad at the world. I think a lot of times, like, we so often are just like, wow, of course this happened to me, just my luck. Like, that was kind of the narrative that he was living, is that he had to protect himself and his brother, and that he had to like just be the man in a way his whole life. And I think the clarity tool for him was a way to voice frustration and protection all at the same time. And actually he has a clarity tool that he has in the office, and it's like this bat, and it's engraved. It says like Eric Guy. But the funny part, I know that doesn't sound funny. I wanted to get that out of the way first, because I know this isn't like, oh, my dad's so intense. Like, I know this isn't like kind of the tone of the rest of the videos I've done, but I love this because it shows that my dad has not always been the way that he has, like the way that he is now, and the growth that he's made. And I don't think we talk about that a lot, especially with men, and like men's mental health is such an not talked about issue and not talked about thing. And I think mental health is still a little taboo sometimes. So like, he was angry. He was just angry growing up. And I hope I'm not butchering this, Dad, when I'm talking about it, but I think the coolest part is that his anger before has become his regulation now. The way that he's learned through that whole way of thinking, and has changed his thought process. Like, he has literally practiced what he preached. Like, he has walked the walk. He has done the transformation. He's learned how to regulate himself. And I think that's what makes him so good at what he does, is because he gets it firsthand, and the clarity tool no longer comes out. We joke about it, but now I think what he does is use effective communication. I think his clarity tool is just his brain and being able to speak honestly, say how he feels, and he's very good at like voicing boundaries with people, naming issues, dealing with conflict, providing direction. But he's doing that in a way now that's no longer aggressive. It's like calm and grounded and loving and very clear. So now I think his growing up was not super easy. He actually has it in his book. And if you haven't read his book, you should check that out. But his growing up wasn't easy at all. And I'm very fortunate that my childhood and my life has not looked like his or like my mom's. Like, I think they have created this whole thing because they've lived it. Like, they've created they would know firsthand, I guess, like the fear and the love side, and like they would know regulation and dysregulation because they've had both. And I don't think that you can preach something if you don't experience it firsthand. And I think for our family, for them, like, my dad is still overprotective. I have gone my whole life. He knows where I'm at. Like, and it's not even a helicopter thing, like helicopter parenting. I know it's a thing, but like, he is very protective of my emotions, of my boundaries, of like the things that matter. That's what he's protective of, along with just being like kind of BA, if you'd ask me. But I think for him, being the clarity tool is not about being passive, right? Like it's just not. It's not about sugarcoating. It's not about like avoiding conflict. I think it's about communicating without the static. And I think too, when my dad learned clarity internally instead of expressing that externally, he didn't stop speaking the truth. Like both him and I have had to learn tact. And I think one of us knows tact a lot and one of us deals with conflict more. And my dad's really good at that. And no, but I think he just stopped weaponizing it. And I think the difference that has made really changed the game for him and changed who he is and changed his impact on people. And that matters. There's a quote I love by Maya Angelou. It goes something along the lines of like, people don't remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. And if your tone is elevated, their guard elevates. Like my dad always says, like you bring your energy to the room. What energy do you want to bring to the room? So if your energy is chaotic, now you're affecting that person's nervous system. You're affecting how they react. And if your emotion is just so intense, that person on the other side or those people on the other side, they stop processing the message and they start managing it as like a threat. So being intentional, and I cannot like intentional, that's like literally this series could just be called like intentional talk. But seriously, being intentional when you speak and being grounded in clarity so people can actually hear you and understand you is what makes a world of difference and what my dad has now transformed into his livelihood. And also too, I think when we have clarity internally, it's like when people say you accept the love you think you deserve. It's like if you don't have clarity, then you can't give out clarity. Clarity is contagious. And if you have clarity, if that's your foundation, if your model is calm honesty, the people around you will start to mirror that, feel that, appreciate that. So when you communicate with emotional maturity, others are able to rise to that level too. And I think that's what my dad did, does, will do for our family, for the companies we get to work with, for our friends, all of that. Like, I think his impact or his legacy right now is creating that emotional safety based in clarity. Like, he still gives hard truth. I know if I need an opinion on something, he will be so very honest with me, sometimes brutally honest, but I know it's to better myself. And I think that's super important with this clarity is like, I know and respect his character because he is an honest, authentic person, but I also know that he's grounded, intentional, and well thought out. So if you want to be your own clarity tool, if you're at the point right now where you're angry, that's okay. My dad had been there at one point. I've been there at one point. And if you're there at one point, you're human. It's just a pulse check. There's nothing good or bad about it. It just is. So if you want to become more on that clarity side, here are a few tips. I would say number one, you can be honest without being harsh. That is super important and something that was really hard for me growing up because I thought being honest and like brutally honest was like beneficial to someone when really that wasn't even my intention and I wasn't trying to be rude. But the truth doesn't need volume to carry weight. So if you want to be honest with someone, make sure you're thinking about what you're saying before you're saying it. And I know that sounds so like elementary, but a lot of times we forget that because instead of just wanting to hear the person out and be honest with them, we just want to give our opinion and be right. So listen and be honest with them. Make sure your intentions aren't going into it harshly. Another way you can be like clarity or a clarity tool for others is you can express your emotion without exploding. And, you know, like people who fight yell. And I think you're able and you can learn to be able to say, you know what, I'm upset without yelling. There's no need to yell, especially if you want to be like clarity. And if you want to be that positive energy for people, these are super important like checklist things to go over when you're communicating a boundary or how you feel or whatever it may be. And I think another thing is you can ask, I guess my third thing, you can ask for clarity. You can ask, like, if you need clarity for something, ask. I think people can't meet an expectation if you don't communicate it. They can't read your mind, and what's common sense to you isn't always common sense to everybody else. So if you want to be clarity, communicate clarity. And I think another thing that I've been really working on in therapy and I've been working on just in general is you can hold boundaries with love. When you do want to be selfless to other people and that's the intention, it's hard to set boundaries with love. Like it's hard to just not be like, one extreme where it's like I'm a doormat or another extreme where it's like nobody messes with me. So finding that balance is super important. Holding those boundaries with love, like a strength but also softness. And I think those are partners, not opposites. So that's super important for me, and that's something I've been working on a lot. And I think the biggest thing that if you take away anything from this is you can rewire your communication style at any age. Who you were isn't who you have to be today. It's not. It doesn't have to stay that way. And these aren't just communication tips. I think these are like relationship saving skills that I'm working on, that you guys can work on. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be intentional. I think because of my dad's ability to grow with his mental health and with his anger and with his regulation, I've been able to learn that you don't raise your voice to raise your impact, that you don't have to be loud to be heard, and you don't have to use force to make a point. He is so good at finding that balance between being honest but being soft and sensitive and empathetic. And I don't think that he ever really feels like he has to choose between kindness and truth. I think he just holds both. It's like just holding everything right here. And I think that's kind of the biggest lesson of all of it is you can become clarity for someone else, the person who helps them feel grounded, safe, supported, and understood while still fully honoring your own emotions and needs. And I think that's something I've learned from my dad and something I continue to see him do with me, with other people. And it's helped me a lot in growing and evolving. And I hope that it will help you guys too. So if you guys want to be the clarity tool, those are my steps. And I have to say thank you, Dad, for being honest with us, because I know a lot of times it takes a lot of vulnerability to talk about decisions you've made that aren't the best, especially as a parent, because all eyes are on you all the time from your kids. And I appreciate that, Dad. I appreciate you being honest with us and being able to share your trials and tribulations and how you grew from that, because all it's done is intentionally motivated me to continue growing as well. So thank you for your vulnerability, Dad. I hope you guys can take some clarity from this, and I hope you walk into every room like the positive clarity tool that you are. I know that sounds horrible saying you're a tool, but it's a clarity tool. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next week on That's What He Said. Bye, guys.